Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time we saw Senna and Kozui, or Kozupi, depending on what mood she's in, sneaking up on Takumi's room, which is the shipping container on top of a block of flats. What are they doing there? We don't know, let's find out. So Senna had come here to infiltrate Takumi's room. Nishijo Takumi is not normal. Nishijo. That was the conclusion she'd come to after speaking to him many times. Do you think it's Nishijo with a hard J, or Nishijo, which is what I've been doing with like a soft J? I've never really worked that out. That was the conclusion she'd come to after speaking to him many times. There was no doubt in her mind that he was distinctly different to normal giggly maniacs like Kozuki and herself. Did he possess delusional abilities so abnormal it proved terrifying? Or could he perhaps be receiving some form of artificial support? Regardless of which it might be, the uncertain nature of Takumi greatly bothered Senna. As of the current moment, she was searching for a man known as Hotano. There was a very real possibility that Nishijo Takumi had some kind of connection to him. She had no conclusive evidence of this. But through investigating even the most lightly suspicious things with her own eyes, the possibilities would be torn down one by one. And with such methodology, she would find her target with absolute certainty. That was Senna's creed. The door had a padlock attached to it. With a slight scoff, she swung down her D-sword that she'd preemptively reel-booted. Easy. Making light work of the lock. The padlock was effortlessly smashed to pieces. Won't Takumi-san get real mad when he gets back? Senna had already confirmed that Takumi had been heading from school toward the station with two of his friends. However, even if he were to find out, it would make no difference to her. When it came to attaining her goal, Senna had no qualms with others coming to detest her, or even being reported to the police. She opened the door and stepped into the room. Senna could only grimace at the disastrous cesspool of a room. The endless piles of trash forced a groan from her mouth. Yucky! Why does it sound like you're enjoying this, Kozuki? Senna-shan, do you think Kozupi and Senna-shan should take their shoes off? With a sigh, Senna ventured deeper into the room, shoes still adorning her feet. There's so many dollies! Oopu! Takumi-shan really is a pervy-vert. Wow! Paying no heed to Kozuki, who seemed oddly impressed, Senna stood before the PC. She turned the power on without hesitation and scoured the desk with her eyes as she waited. Huh? Furrowing her brow, she picked up a sheet of paper that had been left on the desk. An essay. Oh, it's the essay, the whose eyes are those eyes? Ah. Is this going to be Kozupi? I'm going to assume it is. It's whose eyes are those eyes? Kozi had peeked at the essay from behind Senna's back, and she was now jumping up and down in excitement. Oops. So Takumi-shan really was the whose eyes are those eyes guy after all. Kozupi was whitey white. She really was. In vast contrast to Kozupi, Senna skimmed the essay with disinterest, then casually flipped it over. The very next instant, her eyes widened in shock. This Can't be. Something was drawn there. It was... Oopie, look at all those people. Is that a wobot? It says IR2 right there. Senna-shan? The sound of gritting teeth escaped from Senna's lips. Her expression was far more grim than usual, and the hand holding the essay trembled with anger. So, that's it. Nishijou is the one responsible for IR2. Her voice forcefully stifled. She crushed a sheet of paper in her fist. Oh, very abrupt ending. I left the nurse's station and stumbled around the hospital, my mind buried in fog. I was doing everything in my power to avoid thinking about what I'd just seen. Before I knew it, I found myself standing at the landing of the staircase, with Masumi-kun gazing outside by the window. What the hell happened to you? You're covered in sweat, dude. And you're looking pretty pale, too. This is after us just seeing the corridor that ended with an abrupt void that you couldn't get past. Then again, pale's pretty much your permanent skin tone anyway. Haha. Oh god. Don't tell me. Were you running while looking for her? No wonder you're worn out. It ain't worth killing yourself over. I wiped my sweat away and tried desperately to feign composure. I found Remy and Kishimoto. Despite what he'd said, I couldn't see either of them. Then for some odd reason, he pointed outside the window. Over there. Once I caught my breath, I approached the window. I could see the outpatient ward from it. The outpatient and hospital wards were separate buildings, accessible through a corridor connecting them. They weren't all that far apart, though. The hospital ward had many floors, and the landing I was on looked slightly down on the roof of the outpatient ward. On that roof, shrubbery sporting red flowers formed a makeshift garden, and it seemed to be a place where patients went to relax. In the centre of the garden, I could see Remy and Ayase. Ayase was wearing pyjamas, and she was discussing something with Remy. Those two shouldn't know each other, right? Not sure why, but it sure looks like they're discussing something real serious down there, right? Yeah. It almost looked like they were glaring at each other. Suddenly, Ayase closed in on Remy and slapped her right across the cheek. Even from where I was standing, I could tell that she hadn't held back one bit. Ayase then walked away from Remy. She was heading in the direction of the passageway, so she was probably going back to her hospital room. Huh. My man. Was that a bitch slap? I nodded. Even after being left behind, Remy didn't move an inch. She simply stood there. Is there some kind of drama going on between them? If there was, I knew nothing about it. I readily went along with Masumi-kun's proposal to pretend like we'd never seen what we'd seen. We then decided to leave Remy to her own devices and return to Ayase's room. The state of my body had almost recovered by now, and God's gaze had vanished. It was to the point where it felt like that horrible sickness I'd been feeling had never been there in the first place. Oh. Masumi-kun let out a sound from in front of me. Oh. I looked up in response only to see Ayase walking over to us. Her head hung slightly limp and her gaze pointing downward. Her steps were slow and lacked any energy. Her face was very pale and her expression was, to no surprise, intensely somber. We had somehow managed to bump into Ayase right in front of her hospital room. Yo, Kishimoto-san. Masumi-kun gave the most eloquent greeting possible for him, to which Iyase raised her head in surprise. She looked at me, and then despite seeming like she was on the brink of tears, she smiled at me. Why had she done that? Had she heard about the uproar that happened in front of Ofront? About all the shameful things I'd done? Or was she just being friendly? The former would be beyond depressing. We thought you might be lonely, so we decided to pay you a visit. Though I've got to say, you're looking real cute in those pajamas, Kishimoto-san. His passive pickup artist had activated in barely any time at all. Talk about rushing the objective. Come in. Although Iyase had treated Masumi-kun pretty coldly before, she didn't do that this time, and instead Iyase opened their door and invited us in. She didn't show a single hint of having slapped Rimi just a few minutes ago. Was she hiding it well, or had she just already gotten over it in such a short time? As per usual, I had no idea what Iyase was thinking. Taku. Looks like coming to visit was the right choice after all. We hit the jackpot today. Masumi-kun gave a small fist pump while Iyase wasn't looking, then excitedly entered the room. I reluctantly followed after him. In all honesty, I wanted to head home with Rimi ASAP. But I didn't have the courage to say anything to her. I didn't know the reason why, but being so fiercely slapped like that must have made her pretty depressed, and I knew I didn't have the words to encourage her. Ayase sat down on the bed, and Masumi-kun very casually sat beside her. Talk about daring. I couldn't help but be taken back by Masumi-kun's mode of attack. Ayase gave Masumi-kun a single glance before fixing her gaze upon me. Being stared at so blatantly put me at a loss for how exactly I was supposed to respond. I didn't know what kind of expression to make, so I just ended up looking down at the floor. How are your injuries? You look like you're already about ready to walk out of here. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask. My wallet is yours to command, milady. He focused intently on Iyase's hand. If I had to guess, he was scheming on how best to grab it. That refined, slender hand. Should I just go? By the way, are you much of a reader? Me personally, I'm a fan of the Gladiol Book of Psalms and Revelation. You heard of it, Kishimoto-san? The book that she has. Takumi. Leaving Masumi-kun's questions unanswered, Ayase called my name. You are one of the 7 Knights of Gladiol. What? Huh? Right into the schizo shit, huh? Even the mayhem surrounding her attempted suicide hadn't been enough to change her at her core. Us meeting. The event must have been brought forth by guidance after all. Quietly, dispassionately, Ayase narrated about what I could only call a totally Chuini storyline. I can't remember what Chuini means. What does it say? Chuini. What are you to me? Here we go. Like this. Cast off. Calm your tits. Chuini. I guess it's this, right? A term referred to a mindset exhibited primarily by adolescent males. Also used as a derogatory term to refer to old people who still exhibit this mindset. Fictional tropes that teenage males tend to enjoy, such as ancient conspiracies. Oh, I see. It's this kind of stuff. Okay, cool. Your wicked heart is immensely powerful. That is why it goes without saying, you have the makings of a Black Knight. Manifestly so. The suffering you are experiencing right now is divine punishment from above,
a trial of the greater will. When you overcome it, your D-sword shall be summoned. It will become yours. Of this I am certain. And then it shall appear. A dark, colossal serpent of wicked hearts. A being capable of devouring all corrosion, shattering the wicked-hearted king's body itself and instilling heterogeneity in his homogeneity. I read that perfectly right. They're real. Gladiol and the D-swords. The Kamai Taichi are proof of this. Non-existent phenomena have never had their names engraved in history. Do you know of the etymology? Kamitachi, the bearing of a sword. Thus, our D-swords. Trust in me, Takumi. We shall defeat Gladiol together.
Green or red? Green or red? I feel like we did green last time. Or did we? Did we do red last time? Gladiol. I remembered that name. Let's do green. I'd seen that term back when I'd first been researching D-swords. It had seemed that D-sword was a term used in literature and pseudepigrapha? Pseudepigrapha, whatever that word means, relating to the legend of Gladiol, or more specifically a sword in it. I wasn't really sure though. Let's learn what that word means. You know, if you don't ask questions, you don't get answers. Pseudepigrapha are works that are attributed to figures from the past but are not actually written by the person named. Alright. As I continued to think, Masumi-kun quietly got up and started to walk toward me. What's he gonna do? He went to go right past me, but just before he did, he put his hand on my shoulder. I'm gonna head out. Take her down, Taku. My gut tells me you've got some hope with Kishimoto. What? I shouldn't have clicked green. Flashing me a mischievous smile, he left the room, and of course that meant that the only ones left in the room were me and Ayase. Uh-oh. Silence. Despite having been going on and on about all the schizo shit mere seconds ago, Ayase now hung her head in complete silence. Her hands gripped the hem of her shirt as she rolled it up toward her, then straightened it back out again. Then toward her. Then back again. I guess I had to say something? But I had literally no idea what the hell she'd been talking about. Oh, here's an idea. Since I'd come here to visit her in the hospital, I could give her a few words of sympathy about her condition and call it good. But considering she'd been put in the psych ward, I couldn't exactly just ask about her condition. What was I supposed to do? If I knew it was going to be like this, I would have just left with Masumi-kun.
Takumi.
Hearing my name made me jump. Ayase raised her head, then held out both hands to me.
Come.
Huh?
Come here.
Unsure of what she would do if I refused, I took a very confused step forward, toward the bed.
Closer.
Urged on, I took another step. Our hands touched. Then, taking hold of them, she swiftly pulled me in. She lowered her head once more. She stared intently at my hand.
You saved me. I owe my life to you.
That wasn't true at all. I just saved her by chance, nothing more. Not to mention, I didn't even know whether I'd actually created that flower bed in the first place.
Thank you.
Ayase's voice was shaky. Was she crying? Huh? I felt a warm sensation on my fingertip. when I looked down to see what it was. Ugh, my god, what's happening? For some reason I couldn't comprehend my index finger was inside Ayase's mouth. Huh? What? This is the most uncomfortable I've been playing this game so far. I felt something soft and warm touch my fingertip. It wriggled and curled around my finger, then slipped in one of the gaps between nail and flesh. What is going to happen now? Ah. How exactly had we gotten to this point? I was more confused than ever, but I didn't have it in me to resist. It just felt way too good. I was now entirely at her mercy. All she was doing was licking my finger, so why was it so... Stop! Oh! The pleasure suddenly switched to sharp pain. Ayase had bitten my finger. Hard. Okay, I'm much more comfortable with this. Ow! Ow! Stop! Stop! It felt like she was biting right through to the bone. That was how painful it was. I frantically tore my hand away and eventually managed to free it from Ayase's mouth. Oh, it's her. Her bewitching laughter filled me with fear. I quickly went to check the bite wound on my finger. It shone with Ayase's thick, slimy saliva. Blood dribbled from the tooth marks, but the blood wasn't red. It was a sinister black.
The colour of your blood is the proof that you're a Black Knight.
Okay, cool. Thank God that's over. Weird. By having a delusion like that, I was somehow able to endure Ayase's insane psychobabble. I hadn't paid attention to a single word, but Ayase didn't seem to notice. She simply continued to talk about how Gladiol did this and Wicked Hearts did that, all while having a very serious expression glued to her face.
It is all a divine revelation. They should have already assembled in Shibuya, the 7 Black Knights. Next is only for them to awaken. If we do not hurry, the world will be brought to ruin by the machinations of Gladiol.
Cool, well, good talk. With both our shoulders drooping toward the ground, Masumi-kun and I descended to the first floor of the hospital ward. Forget it. I don't care about the Kishimoto chick anymore. Up till now, I've always abided by my policy. I'll overlook anything as long as they're cute. But now, I know that was a mistake. Even I can't handle crazy bitch levels that off the charts. I'll just play it safe and aim for Kozui-chan from now on. Not exactly sure if that made things any better. I mean, Masumi-kun had an actual girlfriend he was dating. You amaze me, man. I can't believe you're able to listen to Kishimoto's insane BS for almost half an hour. I seriously respect that. I couldn't even last 3 minutes. And we're talking about me of all people. How? Don't ask me. Barely listening to Masumi-kun, I focused on my surroundings as I walked. And then I found a dazed girl standing in front of the outpatient lobby. Rimi. From a side view, I couldn't see even a trace of her usual energy. She seemed deep in thought as she gazed up at the lingering sunset, her hair fluttering in the chilly breeze. Heyo! Rimi! Rimi quickly turned after Masumi-kun spoke, her face brimming with surprise, then gave us a big wave. Finally, I found you guys. The sight of her smile filled me with relief. I instinctively ran up to her. Of course, I couldn't exactly bring myself to hug her or anything like that, so that was as far as it went. Such a touching reunion. I'm so glad we're able to meet again, Taku. Where the hell did you go? I didn't know there were where the hospital room was. I was looking all over. I can't believe you'd just leave me behind like that. Rimi made a show of pretending to cry. Weren't you the one that told us to go on ahead? I did, didn't I? So, were you able to see Kishimoto-san? As I nodded, I noticed Masumi-kun was grinning very obviously beside me. Oh yeah, we did. And you got bitch slapped by Kishimoto, right? Huh? What could you possibly be talking about? Rimi must have wanted to hide the fact that Ayase had slapped her. That was why I'd been avoiding the topic and leaving it at that. Read the damn room, Masumi-kun. There's no use hiding it. I saw the whole thing. Makes me feel like a gossip-hungry housekeeper or something. Huh. Guess I've been caught red-handed. Her face now pointed down at the floor. Rimi gave an awkward sigh, then gazed up at me. Did you see it too, Taku? Well, Yep. Taku and I saw the decisive moment when she let it rip across your face. Dude, you don't just say that. Oh, I guess we're gonna go red. Well, darn. I must look pretty stupid for trying so hard to hide it. But yeah, when I went to the rooftop, I bumped into Kishimoto-san. I then just kinda asked her something that was on my mind. But what I said seemed to ruffle her feathers a little bit. What had she asked? Well, what was on your mind? Here we go. I asked her if she'd been hospitalised here all this time. Or accused her, I guess. Huh? What's that supposed to mean? Okay. So here's the thing. Kishimoto-san was never discharged from the hospital. With a bit of pride in her voice, Rimi began to reveal some pretty shocking information about Ayase. The reason she barely ever came to school was because she was never allowed to leave the hospital in the first place. Same thing with her concerts. And New Gen was just a delusion she created, which she then enacted herself. She committed all those crimes to fit perfectly with the lyrics to Phantasm's songs. This was so she could draw attention to them. That's my theory on the truth behind the New Gen incidents. I was pressing Kishimoto-san about it just before, and I didn't hold back. And then I got slapped because of it. That wasn't something to ta-ha-ha over. Anyone would get upset at being treated as a murderer without proof. Then again, when I treated Rimi like a murderer, she hadn't gotten all pissy. But I know my theory's right. So that means you gotta be careful, okay, Taku? Kishimoto-san? She's not normal. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And it had come from Rimi of all people. I wondered if I'd misheard her. Oh? I'm perfectly normal. Is that her, or is it supposed to be FES? Huh? A clear voice echoed throughout the room. Oh, there she is. When I looked over to find the source of it, I saw Ayase standing at the entrance to the hospital ward, D-sword in hand.
All is the guidance of the greater will.
With that shriek, she charged at us with her D-sword. What the... Run for it. Taku, what do we do? I don't know.
Glory to be Gladio!
Ayase had clearly gone off the rails. She came closer and closer. This was bad. We had to run. If we didn't, we were dead. I was in too much of a hurry, so I ended up tripping over myself. I fell to the floor so hard it was almost comical. Taku! Leave him, Remy. Abandoning me, Remy and Masumi-kun ran away. My arm reached for them as their backs got smaller and smaller. Wait, don't leave him behind.
Die!
And when I turned around, I saw Yase's figure mid-swing as she brought her D-sword down on top of me. Dead. Hey, Taku. Enough daydreaming. Oh, hang on, that's, Asumi, right? Hey, Taku. Enough daydreaming, dude. Let's move. Asumi-kun was calling for me. Remy also waved at me from beside him. Blinking dazedly, I examined my surroundings. Ayase was nowhere in sight. I wasn't injured. I hadn't been split in two. Whew. A delusion. Huh. And here I thought I was going to die. That scary version of Ayase could happily stay in my delusions, thank you very much. Taku! Move your ass! I hurriedly chased after the two. The three of us walking shoulder to shoulder, we made our way through the outpatient lobby. The outpatient reception was already closed, meaning very few people were still there. However, the large TV screen at the end of the lobby was still surrounded by around 10 or so people. What's going on? Maybe the newest new gen just hit. My body stiffened at what Masumi-kun had so casually said, but immediately after that, Remy nonchalantly grasped my hand. Thanks to the warmth of her hand, my fear stopped there. The tension in my mind felt like it was melting away. Remy was my sole support. Remy gave me peace of mind. Remy would stay by my side. It might be a little too optimistic, but I felt that as long as Remy stayed by my side, I could barely, just barely, endure any fear that might come my way. Thank God Remy was there for me. Hey, you two, check this out. Masumi-kun had already made it to the TV and was urging me and Remy over to it. All the other people there, patients both young and old and even some nurses, had gathered around the TV. Their eyes were glued to the screen. What the hell was going on? Should we go see? The two of us moved to a place where we could see the TV, with me guided along by Remy's hand. I then timidly turned my eyes to the screen, and when I looked at the captions on the screen, I was completely dumbfounded. New gen culprit arrested. What the fuck? It was a news report announcing the arrest of the new gen culprit. And I guess we're going to leave that for an episode of Borderline Games. What's going to happen next time on Chaos Head? Thank you so much for watching this episode, and I will see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye-bye. Bye.